Welcome into Rogers Rulez. It's my show, so I get to do whatever I want to do. And that's Kahm. Kam's always there. He'll be the producer for all episodes. And Avarie Howard from Hurrdat Sports joining for episode 1. Avarie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What an honor to be on episode 1.
I know. I had to handpick the person I thought that would be perfect for this. And you know what? I pulled you out of a hat. So
what a treat.
It was a literal hand pick. No, it's great to see you. Great to see everybody. And it's also great to kind of recap a month's worth of digestion after the Nebraska spring game. And I think we really needed a month to digest this because it was easy day after to say, oh, we're college football playoff bound.
Yeah.
Dylan Raiola looks great. He's got all the mannerisms you want in a star quarterback. But now that we've kind of let that settle, now that the food is finally digested, it's like, okay, Dylan Raiola is a machine. And I still believe that.
Yeah.
He's got everything that you want in a quarterback. He makes he makes quick decisions, but the right decisions, and he doesn't force things. He takes what the defense gives him. But it's also like let's also remember he's a freshman quarterback and he hasn't really seen action yet. This was, for lack of a better term, second string defensive players, and Dylan Raiola put on a show, which is what you want out of him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. And I think when I talked to Damon the day before the spring game, we did talk, some X's and O's a little bit. And kind of, you mentioned, we weren't sure who really was going to be in the game, how long, how many reps certain players are going to have, some of those notable names, like you say. But it's the other things that we were kind of looking for that I think were maybe the it factor for people that they saw. It was just the comfort level or the connection, or something that we talked about during the spring is how will these quarterbacks be able to, whether it is Heinrich coming back again, or it's Danny, or it's Dylan, do they have their ways of communicating with the O-line? And that's been something that's been talked about, because the O-line actually isn't a position group that people are super concerned about. So is that something that we're seeing? They have fluidity between them. And I think watching that from a kid that's been here for a few months and just his age and maturity on the field was something that I think people were like, okay, there is a comfort level there. And we were waiting to see it. And whether it was real live football and the pressure was, who knows? Sure. But I think there's some of those things that were, okay, we can watch those and we can physically say that we watched the way he moved on the field. We watched the way he interacted. We watched the way he celebrated, communicated, those kind of things that I think was like all right, I feel pretty comfortable. If you want, I think, a point of view from whether or not it was legit football, how much it was show, how much it was, I don't know. But I think that was the positive piece that people were happy to see, no doubt.
Well, it was instant respect. And I think that is kind of what you were getting at with, okay, do you have control over the offense, from offensive line to skill positions to everything? He got that respect coming in because he is Dylan Raiola. But why did he get that respect? He earned it through his training.
Yeah.
And teams, I think about this because people were making comparisons to Patrick Mahomes, and I get it. He works out with Patrick Mahomes, so you're going to pick up on things that he does. Why? Because he's one of the greatest quarterbacks that has ever lived, and he's still playing football. Right. But I want to ask you, because you're a Chiefs fan, why do teams like the Chiefs? Oh, yeah, I forgot. Kam's a Chiefs fan, too.
You're surrounded.
Let's go.
All right, I'm going to ask you both. Why do teams like the Chiefs get respect outside of just pure wins?
I thought you were going to say, why do people like the Chiefs?
Why do they get respect at all?
Why do they like the Chiefs? I think that's a good question. Honestly, I think crazy enough, Kahm, you can tell me if you agree, but this year it felt like, and I guess everyone else was saying this too, but even from a Chiefs fan, parts of last year and this year, it was like, the sparkle and shine maybe is a little bit dull or this year, or has the rest of the NFL caught up to what they know is going to happen when they play the Chiefs? And I think what that means in terms of, from what I watch, is it's just not your everyday typical football. Like, they find ways to just make it happen as they go. And I think everyone's I don't know, maybe it's just been tradition of football or things are changing and the styles of play, whatever it may be. But like everything felt like it's been by the book for a while. And I don't know if it's the Patrick Mahomes style that he's like, let's just make it up as we go. And because they know they have that capability, they have ways to, spice up the playbook and stuff. But I think that's what people enjoy watching is they never know what they're going to get, but they know they're going to get a usually pretty polished product on the field. And I mean, that's obviously just offensively speaking. Last year's defense really stepped up, and that was probably the reason all of last year happened when everyone was doubting them. But I don't know. I think from a Chiefs fan, we watch them every single game, and I still am like, I could maybe tell you what I think is going to happen, maybe, but you really don't know. And I think for the fans that catch random plays or they see the highlights, they catch a quarter or whatever it may be, and from whatever fan base they come from, I'm sure it's pretty exciting to watch. But in terms of the comparison thing, when I first heard it, I was like, whoa. Like,
easy, Tiger, easy.
We haven't even watched him play a live snap. Like, what did I miss?
But he's going to win the Heisman, so it's okay.
Yeah, right. So you watch the way he moves and you watch the way he just improvises in simple things. You're like, okay, maybe I get it. But honestly, the thing that threw me for a loop is when you watch him come off the field and he does the little shuffle thing, I was like, I don't care what the play says. The little shuffle thing off the field, that was a little Patrick Mahomes-y.
Well, it's just contagious. It's a contagious talent that is easy to absorb. And so I like where you went with that answer because you're very like, I'm going to actually dig pretty deep under this board where I'm like, I was kind of just looking for the average fan answer, which is why I want to go to Kahm here because I think I can branch off of Kahm perfectly. Go ahead, Kahm.
I think you did a very nice job of saying that, Avery. But I think, spontaneous, sexy, and then just the I don't want to.
How am I supposed to branch off of that?
Branch off of this, buddy? No, but like I don't want to say genius because it seems to be an overused word, but just the IQ of Andy Reid. Just to be able to put all that together. So it's spontaneous and sexy and brilliance of Andy Reid is what makes it all happen. So, and then that's a trickle down effect too, that it affects all other factions of the sport. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing here too. Yeah.
So teams like the Chiefs get respect for two reasons and two reasons only. One, the quarterback. Two, the head coach.
Yep.
In that order. Quarterback, head coach. That's why the Chiefs if you were filling in a sentence, why did the Chiefs get respect? It's because of these two people.
And don't forget that tight end too, as just a third auxiliary, right?
Who's that?
The one.
Oh yeah, the one dating that movie star.
Yeah.
That one that was at the Kentucky Derby. Yeah. No, they get respect because of those two things. And so when I look at Nebraska this season, what was that void, right? You had Matt Rhule, which filled in that Andy Reid. Let's just say we can slot him in. No, he's not Andy Reid, but in a way you can say he's done enough to put on his resume that he could be somewhat close to what you want out of a premier college head football coach. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's up with the big names. No one can really argue that. But what was missing is the quarterback. And so when you see a guy like Dylan Raiola come in who had a bunch of attention, but also lived up to the hype per se so far, now you're going to start seeing national respect. Mm-hmm. Before, Nebraska is not getting the respect at all. That people wanted it, people craved it, but you're not getting it. Now that you have Dylan Raiola and he showed off in that game, like that first touchdown throw to Bonner was an absolute dot. Mm-hmm. You don't see that out of most freshman quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you this, Danny Kalen's not making that throw. Yeah. Dylan Raiola is, Danny Kalen's not. That's the separation between those two guys. That's not a knock on Danny Kalen either. I thought he looked pretty good in that live scrimmage, but he's not Dylan Raiola. And that's exactly why Nebraska will get instant respect this season. And I was thinking about this too. Last year, at the end of the year, people do what? They look ahead to next year's schedule. Before anything else, they're like, okay, how are we going to get to a bowl game? And you look at the schedule this year, and you're not playing Penn State. You're not playing Michigan.
Yeah.
And you have, yes, USC and UCLA that are joining, but you're not playing Oregon.
True.
So because of these things, you'd have to think that based on how the schedule is laid out, that because you have the quarterback now, and because you've seen a little bit of what he can do in live action, that bowl game's attainable. Matt Rhule has done that in stop after stop. After year one, he's like, okay, we figured out how to play football, and Nebraska will figure it out this year. There's not a doubt in my mind that 6 is attainable. There's not a doubt in my mind that 7's attainable. There's not a doubt in my mind that 8 is attainable. Now, if we get to 9, we're pushing it a little bit. I got to pump the brakes. But that's just how I kind of view this thing. You take a picture from the Chiefs and you put Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid hugging each other in a photo. You could do that exact same thing with Dylan Raiola and Matt Rhule and get a pretty similar result.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny you mentioned that, because I realize now that, you already had your answer. You just wanted to know our answer. But once you gave your answer, I was like, weird that you said that, because the next thing I was going to say before you said that was that the trickle down from the coaching staff to the Chiefs is also what I think makes, like you said, that respect, because it's internal. And I think to get that external, the internal trust, and how much of the just the playbook is player driven, I think is pretty cool. And granted, I don't know what it's like organization to organization. I obviously know a little bit of what the inside of the Chiefs looks like. And I know that that's a huge thing. We all know that Patrick Mahomes literally picks who he wants each year in the draft. Like, I think for players and coaches to have that much respect and just connection, and to see that, I think starting to be visible on Nebraska's side as well is something that I think is really exciting. Because I think we know that that's front of mind for most of these Husker football coaches, is that they want to have a relationship with their players. They want to be connected to them. But I think when you start there with year one, and then what that leads to naturally, like, these players know that their voice is heard. They know that their wants and needs are met, not even like off the field, but on the field. When it comes to, if Dylan's going to take over this offense, how much control do I have over it? Or is someone going to be doing it for me? How much of it's going to play into how I want to play? Because if Andy Reid wasn't the coach of the Chiefs, and hopefully some other smart coach was, I'm pretty sure you're not going to say, no, Patrick, you're not playing that way. Right. So I'm curious as to how much over the next few years that starts to develop to where maybe this offense starts to turn into what Nebraska wants it to be, but how it molds to which quarterback is back there. And let's say it's Dylan, how that starts to shape differently, because the foundation of relationships and connection and respect internally has been set.
At some point, you just got to let players play. They know what to do.
Right.
And that's kind of how I talked when I coached this past fall is when I coaching 17-year-old kids how to play baseball, what am I actually coaching them?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to let them play, and then you fix little things along the way. And that's what you look at here with Dylan Raiola. You just got to let the dude play, because he's going to make the right decision. Now, if he throws a ball that you're like, not really too sure, you should have tried to force that window and it gets picked off. Those are things that you can easily fix, because most of the time a guy like him is going to throw it where the defense isn't. He's going to overthrow his receiver before he underthrows and puts that ball in harm's way. He's a player. You got to let a player play. And that's what you're going to get out of a guy like Dylan Raiola, which is a perfect lead in to this overreaction or nugget of truth. Dylan Raiola won't ever show you at any point in time that he's a miss.
I don't think so.
So you think that's a nugget of truth?
I think so. And I think that's because even in the smallest, we saw him play how many snaps, but even the smallest amount of time that we've seen him, he had that one interception that was a tipped ball. Did he take ownership? Yes, he did. Do I think maybe it
wasn't all on him?
No, but immediately let's say he's 18, probably 18. Maybe give me 17. Who knows? 17, 18. He's been here for 3 months. For him to super quickly in that press conference be like, that was already on me, and basically kind of explained where the play could have developed differently. He's just not going to be complacent, in my opinion. I don't think so. I also think when you come in, and maybe I'm projecting this on him, so maybe if he hears this, maybe he already knows, but we come in as the number one, essentially, recruit out of college, or out of high school. Everyone wants you. obviously there's a lot to prove there, and he can either sit in it and be complacent and be like, I already know that I'm set. Or I think the fact that he chose Nebraska, though, doesn't allow him the option to be comfortable, quite honestly. Because you go to Georgia, you're going to have all these tools and things around you. Not saying that Nebraska doesn't have that right now, but he's going to have to really lead the charge into what this offense looks like. And if he wants to be comfortable, it's just not going to work. And so I think for him to basically prove everyone right as to this number one kid, I don't think he can let us all believe that that was a miss. And I don't think the competitor in him, and if we've seen, how the fire runs in that family, I don't think that, it ever will go out. But yeah, I don't think so. Maybe
I think. No, I'm with you. Full send, full truth. This is a nugget of truth. Yeah. And, I think he's in a really good spot because in a fan's eyes, as long as he puts Nebraska in position to play in December, whether it's a college football playoff or not, just a normal bowl game, that right there is going to solidify him as a home run hit. Now, if he gets you to the college football playoff, we're talking more like a grand slam. But he's in a good spot because, as you say, complacency is not really in his blood, so he's going to strive for that moment. But there's never going to be a time that fans think he's a miss. Now, could there be a time that he feels like he's a miss, that he felt like they should have gotten more than 8, could have gotten more than 9, should have gotten to 10? Right. There's going to be moments where I think internally he feels like he could have done more. Or he should have done more.
Competitor too. I mean, they always want to strive to be better no matter what. And I think that he's got that, and he's got the leadership ability too, like you mentioned, Avarie.
Yeah.
So all encompassing, there's not going to be a point in time where you look at this kid and say, Nebraska struck out. Like they had Albert Pujols at the dish and just couldn't get that game-winning home run. There's not going to be a time where a fan says that. Just everything is there for the kid. And a lot of times this gets overlooked too. Up here, this thing in your head, he has that. He's got a big old brain. Me, tiny brain. That's why I'm not playing. But Dylan Raiola's got a big old brain, and he's full of knowledge, and he's also just never going to kind of just settle. He's a lifelong learner like Coach Rhule. Yeah. He's willing to learn. I think that's another big thing. He asks questions. He answers questions. He listens. It's a story that DB told on the air a while back about his biggest takeaway in spring when Isaac Gifford was talking to Coach Coop and was like, I want to play with tough guys. That's what it is. Why does he get to say that? Because he's a tough guy. Why does Dylan Raiola want to say, I want to play with the best? Because he acts like the best. Right. Or I shouldn't say he acts like the best, because that can be taken in a different light. But he knows what he wants to be. So he's going to stand there, but he's going to work to stand there. He's not just going to stand on that pedestal.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think I kind of said it previously, but I think him choosing to be at Nebraska, I think whether he realizes it or it forces him into that. Like we say, he could have gone to the Ohio State, could have done the Georgia thing. And maybe he waited a few years. Maybe he wouldn't have been the guy. But I think to be at Nebraska, you have to challenge. You have to be a challenger. And I think you're already probably a little bit uncomfortable whether he'd be willing to accept that or not. You're in front of a lot of expectation, and you wouldn't be at other places, but you got the family names on the wall, uncles on the staff. There's a lot of things that he almost cried during the spring game. Like, he knows what that means. And I think that's a special thing too. When you have it here, I think there's a lot more that he's playing for. So yeah, I'm really hoping in 4 years or 3 years, whatever it is, we'll be watching this back and be like, gosh, we didn't even know, versus the other thing. But yeah, at least I think it's an exciting thing to think about, because as much as I think there's been hope building for the past few years, I think we can all say that. I think that's been the standing question mark year after year. And to know that may not really be the question mark this year, who knows? So.
And unlike Jeff Sims, the pressure won't get to Dylan Raiola. It just won't, because expectations were set a little bit differently, but Dylan's the type of guy that was steps ahead of Jeff Sims, even now as a freshman, to where that sort of pressure just won't affect him. He'll figure it out. He'll find ways to make to make this college career what he wants it to be.
Right.
And that's, I think, the beauty of working with a guy like Dylan Raiola. Nugget of truth, overreaction nugget of truth.
Okay.
Depth at skill positions wins your most improved award.
Depth at skill positions. Yeah, I think so.
Nugget of truth.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to stay on the offensive side here, but I think the wide receiver room is exciting because I think last year it was like, okay, how do we get a few more of these tight ends involved in this wide receiver room? Where that's still going to be a positive point, I think, this year, but it's not going to be that the tight ends have to fill in for their deficiencies. I think they can supplement each other and who they have at the wide receiver position, especially we saw the spring game once again, whether that was legit or not, we still saw flashes of things that this Nebraska team, we had more explosive plays and we watched more explosive plays in the first, whatever it was, few drives. And I think we did all last year. I think they have the ability with the speed and the length to take the top off more often. And then I think what that leads me to next is I think the injured players at running back in a sad, unfortunate way has helped strengthen that room. I think Emmett Johnson being healthy this whole time and being able to kind of become that guy and get just more one reps, I think is huge. I mean, everyone's been saying a lot of great things about him, and that's because they've had more close scrimmages and people been able to see that. But we saw flashes of it, I think, at last year. But to hear that he's been growing even more in this last season, I think that just makes that offense so much more multidimensional, which if they have, I mean, I think I could talk about the defense and some of the players and on that side that are exciting based on last year, but I think it'd be a disservice to talk about probably just the huge steps forward they took on offense, whether that was legit what we saw at the spring game and how true that can be. But the fact that I think they have options is the big piece.
And the wide receiving room is definitely the one to focus on here because you got Jamal, you got Nair, both of them bring some experience that was desperately needed for that room. Alex Bullock couldn't do it all himself last year. Jalen Lloyd couldn't do it all himself last year. Plus, you can't rely on a freshman to just kind of take on that role and say, hey, you're our leading touchdown scorer and also yards per game, let's call it that, because it was one catch for 56 yards and a score, leading Nebraska to their 18 points per game last season. He couldn't do that. And also, you also have to think, too, for Dylan Raiola can make really anything work, and I truly believe that. But you also need talent around him to get the best and most out of him. You can't just put last year's receiving core all across the board and think Dylan Raiola is leading you to 8 wins because he's got to throw the ball to somebody. They got to get open and just guys are elevated above guys and that's just kind of how it works. So when you put Jamal Banks in this system, when you put Isaiah Nair in this system, when you get another year under Jalen Lloyd's belt in this system, now you have something. Now you're producing something. And I also think it goes back to what you said about Mahomes being able to draft who he wants to draft. That's a little bit what Dylan Raiola can do too at this university. He went on a ton of recruiting visits before he was even the starting quarterback or labeled anywhere close to the starting quarterback. He was on visits with people to say, hey, you should come play here because I'm here too and we can do something special. So you don't just he doesn't accidentally just end up at the field house that day. He's purposely there to do a little bit of scouting himself to say, hey, come play with me.
Yeah,
we'll do some damage. So I agree. Nugget of truth. I think depth at those skill positions are just monstrous for what Nebraska's offense needs to do in order to be competitive in most games, because you can't have your defense on their backs constantly trying to bail you out just to get a W. And then it comes down to the wire and you lose by 3 or you lose by 7 because of a last minute score. You can't have that. You need to set your defense up so that they're fresh at all points in time. And even at the times where you need them to gut out one more thing, that they haven't been doing that 3 or 4 times in the game already.
Yeah. I think beyond that too. And we were limited at practice this year. We only got, I think it was 3 open practices. I was only able to go to 2 open practices. And this is something I harped on a lot last year, but just in terms of the coaching, how much repetition's happening, not really just in the reps itself, but just the coaching, how much things are being spoken over and over and over again, that the attention to detail, I think, is subconsciously being ingrained up here, and that's probably their goal. But in general, like just the mediocre is not really accepted whatsoever. And we were practice, I think it was the last open practice we saw before the spring game. So it probably would have been that Tuesday before, whatever it was, but they had an open scrimmage the Saturday before, and the wide receivers were working on simply just not dropping the ball. And that was the frustration from that Saturday closed practice. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I saw too many drop balls on that spring game. And so the quick turnaround in this will not be accepted. We'll be working on this until it's almost perfect. And I think that comes with the fact that they know that they've got a quarterback that is going to supply them what they want. You better not waste it. Right. Like, and I think you go on to say that too. And if that's the case, like, because Dylan is here, he's not even having to go tell kids, hey, you should come here. We've seen kids basically say, Dylan's here. Why would I not go? Right. Like, we've already had that happen, and he hasn't played a season, hasn't played a game. So if you're not going to be the one that is an Isaiah Nair or a Bonner or whatever, a Lloyd, a Coleman that is going to receive the ball, make the right routes, like, there's going to be kids coming in because they know who's throwing the ball to them.
Now, let's keep this going because I want to stay on track because I could just keep going down this rabbit hole, but I'll save this question till we get done with overreaction nugget of truth. I want to go to the defense here for a moment because we didn't get to see a lot of them, but we also know who was missing, and we know those guys are super talented because we saw it last year. Mm-hmm. Overreaction nugget of truth. Nebraska's defense will either stay even or trend above the line from where they were last year.
Oh, I think that's truth for sure. Because if they are what they were last year, I'm not going to say that's good enough, but you at least know what you're working with. You know what the foundation is. Because I feel like I know the coaching philosophy of Tony White. I don't think remaining where they were last year is anywhere near acceptable whatsoever. And if we've heard anything, whether we all saw with our own eyes last year or we know what these coaches have been talking about, and it clearly has been front of mind, is turnovers on both sides of the ball. But defense knows that they might have done a good job last year, but they did not create enough turnovers. They did not create enough points. They did not help the offense as much as they wanted to. It's been almost the first thing that every single coach has said in the press conferences. It's the first thing that's coming out of Coach Rhule's mouth when he talks about it. When I'm watching the coaching on the defensive side, the details, like, I sound like being the dead horse, obviously, but every single coaching thing, whether if the guys don't get it, they stop the drill for them to understand why they're preaching it. And almost every single time the detail has to do with how to create a turnover. If they're scooping and scoring, are they running through it the correct way? Are they hitting the ball correctly? Are they punching the ball correctly? Are they reading 50-50 balls correctly? All of them have like the same theme, which is turnovers, generating turnovers. So I think we all know that that's clearly front of mind. So I have a hard time believing that if that's been ingrained in this team and what they saw or what was possible last year, I can only imagine, based on just, I think, the culture that they're creating at this program, that being what they were last year won't be good enough. And I do think they have a lot of options, whether they know where the pieces are going to go or not. But at this point, I think they have enough options and enough competition on both sides of the ball. But in terms of defense, if you're not going to get that job done, same as the offense, like, the next guy will go. And I think we saw that last year. How many guys played on the field for the side? Thank you. But in the game, we were like, when did he come in? When did he go off? Like, guys are funneling in because everyone has to be on the same page. Everyone has to be at the same pace. So I would like to say it's truthful, because I think if they do what they did last year, it'll be okay enough. But I think for this team, they know that it won't be good enough.
So I would overreact to say that they would trend above the line because I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen those turnovers forced. As you said, they're working on it.
Yeah.
But until that gets carried over to the game, I can't sit here and say that they're going to be better than they were last year, because they were pretty good and elite last year. But I don't know if they even had enough moments to need a takeaway last year. So that's where I'm kind of in. I let's just call it choppy waters, because I don't know if it does become still on the other side, or if we're just going to sit in those choppy waters until we see it. I will call it a nugget of truth that they'll stay even. And it's because of their returning production. I mean, Nebraska's third in overall returning production in college football. That says something. That says, hey, there were so many guys that could have either gone to the draft or said, hey, I'm done. I just don't want to put my body through this anymore. I've done it for 28 years because everybody has 7 COVID years. So I can't physically go through this anymore. But they chose to come back because they love the system and they love the family, and they also love bettering themselves. And that's what you find in this system. Nobody's standing around when you go to those practices, like you said. Nobody. Everybody's moving. Those stations, you don't see that everywhere across the country. You may see it in Georgia. You may have seen it with Nick Saban in Alabama. You may start seeing it or have seen it at Oregon with Dan Lanning because he's a Georgia product. But you don't see that in the Big Ten too much. This is the only program that you will see 110% on a time when they're hitting a guy holding a pad. 110%, because if they aren't doing that rep like they would in the game, they're not only hurting their team, they're hurting themselves. And so Tony White expects the best. He's going to get the best. Matt Rhule expects the most out of his entire tree. He's going to get the most out of his entire tree. So 3 nugget of truths in a row. Let's see if we overreact to this point. Cam, I want you to chime in here as well. Matt Rhule will skip his normal season 2 line with a college football team, which tends to be like 7-6, 6-6 at his previous stops, like Temple and Baylor were about those season 2 jumps, and will go straight to season 3 with this team. And for those that need a little bit of help, season 3 at Temple, he was 10-4, and season 3 at Baylor, he was 11-3.
Cam, you got it.
It's an overreaction, but I'm biased. I'm from Iowa, so that's why I
somebody get him off this page.
I haven't been able to chime in too much lately, just because of the.
I can't hit the X in Cam's corner. Why can't I take him off?
I know, but living in Nebraska, knowing things about Nebraska, but I think that's an overreaction. I think he's going to stay the course. He's got a great group of guys. I think they're going to do really well, but I don't think they're going to jump that third season situation. I think they're going to do great, but I don't think it's going to be 11-2 or whatever you said it was.
Come on, Avery.
I'm really torn here because the schedule, I feel like, favors.
I'm for it. Let's go.
And he did this other places without the number 1 recruit in the country.
I'm vibing.
And I know Temple is different, but he did it at Baylor. And I'm going to interject because I don't know if you guys both heard when he was on the radio last week, but he talked about how when people came in his first year, they wanted to catch up to the Oklahomas and the Texas. And he was like, we're not there yet. We're the Oklahoma States. And, I can't think of another one right now. Maybe like a K-State, maybe, in terms of fundraising and performance and the teams that they're chasing. And within his year 3, they were the Texas and the Oklahomas and surpassed those. So, I don't know.
Okie State could be a top 10 team.
I feel like I'm thinking too hard, but I'm just going to do it. I'll just overreact. I feel like so we'll even us out. So one of us did. What? You were hyping me up, I thought.
I am, but I'm not overreacting. No. I think it's a nugget of truth. I think he's going to skip season 2.
Wait, you're right. I guess I'm. Oh, wait. Wait.
What are you? You know what overreaction means.
What is your truth? Speak your truth. I forget.
Nugget of truth, overreaction, nugget of truth. Matt Rhule will skip season 2 and go straight to season 3.
Okay, so you're saying your truth is that he's gonna have a year 2.
No, my truth is he's going to have year 3. Cam's overreacting.
That's what I meant. I'm with you then. I'm with you. That's what I'm saying.
I'm vibing with that.
But I'm hoping it's true.
No, I'm completely with you because, look, I haven't seen at any point in time in my short time watching Nebraska football and even dating myself a little bit when Nebraska was in the Big 12 taking on Mizzou, because I grew up in Missouri, so it was just easy to root for Chase Daniels and Jeremy Maclin, guys like that. They were the number one team in the country in like 2010. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Maybe it was 2009. I can't remember.
No, I do. I got you.
But I got to watch Nebraska football because of it, but I wasn't paying too close of attention until I eventually made my way to Sioux City in 2019 and then Omaha after that. Look, there hasn't been a point in time where even I've been this excited about what this Nebraska team could be. For one, I was number one Matt Rhule fan once he got fired in Carolina to be the head coach at Nebraska. That was my favorite from the very get-go. Ask anybody.
I thought you were on the Urban train.
Matt Rhule wasn't available then.
Okay.
So Urban Meyer, because he won in college football. So that's why I gravitated to Matt Rhule whenever he got fired in Carolina. And DB he'll even credit the same thing. We were doing a show in the summer, and his favorite was what's his face from Baylor, the guy that's Dave Aranda. Thank you. Just a philosopher, if that's the right way to say that. But he's a philosopher. Like the way that he speaks, the way that he carries information is very engaging, but also, you kind of just sit there in awe and you're like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. You do that with Matt Rhule, though, a lot, too. And when I brought up Matt Rhule's name, I'm like, this is it. This is who you need because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And I already felt that Nebraska was in the rebuilding stage. So why not get the guy that can really build houses quickly, but not only quickly, but are strong and with a good foundation.
Brick house.
It's not McBride and Son homes. They're not just putting houses in neighborhoods all across the country and just saying like, hey, you can buy it for $300K. Like, no, this is a contractor that comes in and says, all right, I'm the best at this, and I can do it for you too. And so along those same lines, that's why I feel like they're just so far ahead, because Rhule knows where he wants to be and how he's able to get it done with this team. You mentioned the schedule. The schedule is, should a Nebraska person ever call it easy? Probably not. But here I am calling it easy. The first 6-ish games, 7 games are easier. You're playing non-con, and then you go into the lower end of your Big Ten standings, and you find the Indianas of the world, and I'm trying to just spitball this off the top of my Rutgers.
It's I just pulled it up for us to look at, and of course it goes back. It's Illinois and Purdue.
Okay, Purdue, that was Rutgers, a big one.
Indiana. Those are the first 4 Big Ten games, and then if Nebraska is challenged in week 2, then okay, that's a challenge. But if not, they may not be truly tested until October 26th.
And I am not overreacting that Matt Rhule will skip to season 3 because of it. Avery, Kahm.
Is this my surprise question? I'm scared.
Do I dare call him a top 10 team this year?
Whoa.
I don't know. Gosh.
Do I dare? Because I am.
I haven't seen enough. I am. You're speaking to someone who was. You're speaking to a diehard fan since a child, and
UCLA,
now that I work in it, I have to like dial it back a lot. But like, if I was 7, I'd be like so rocking the Raiola jersey at school every day.
Hey, Ohio State's got nothing on DR. UCLA's got nothing on DR. USC probably has something on DR because they watched him play a lot, even though Ohio State has too. But you know what? They chewed him up, spat him out. Now he's playing football at Nebraska. Guess who has to deal with that feat now? That is Ohio State. You're looking at a guy that will beat Wisconsin and Iowa down the stretch of this season, and you will see this Nebraska team be a top 10 team at some point in the year.
However,
I like that at some point in the year part.
You're welcome.
They will finish in top 10.
They may be 8-0.
What is the comfort level knowing that it's at Ohio State, at Purdue,
lock,
at USC,
lock, not no, that one got unlocked,
at Iowa?
Iowa's not scoring more than 10 points still. So the comfort is there at Iowa. At Ohio State, it's going to be challenging for sure. USC is going to be extremely challenging, I feel. I don't know why people are underestimating Lincoln Riley at all and USC's potential 5-star whatever coming in, but I didn't see enough out of the quarterback situation at Ohio State, especially in that bowl game against Mizzou, to make me feel like Dylan Raiola can't stand with those guys. It's just not possible. Lincoln Keenholz is not the answer, and neither is the guy that was riding the bike since the second quarter. We didn't see enough of him, but he was riding the bike. Like, I'm not worried about this guy. I'm not worried about that team. So, yes, maybe you guys can overreact to me, but that's where I sit. That's where I sit with this. Got a few more minutes here. Let's have a little bit of fun, and then we'll close, and I'll let this stew for you. Okay. Stew, brew. Who's your way too early player to watch for this Nebraska team? I want you to sit on that while we go into this. We'll have a little bit of fun with Avarie because Avarie travels to multiple stops throughout the year, are you going to USC this year? Fantastic, right? So you'll find her at Ohio State, you'll find her at USC, you'll find her in Iowa. That's her favorite place to be. So let's
right after Thanksgiving. Don't forget that little nugget.
Let's do a Big Ten destination review from last season with Avarie. We're going to go through the 5 stops Nebraska made in the Big Ten. And you are going to tell me and this is how you'll rate them. You'll rate them Michigan, which is a cheat code. It's so good.
I didn't get to go to Michigan.
I know. But I'm saying you'll rate it from you'll rate it from Michigan, which is cheat code. It's so good.
Or 10.
Cheat underlined, and to Iowa, which is what am I looking at?
Okay.
So
can I interject real fast? Apparently, people love Iowa City. People apparently love Iowa City.
Have
you been? Cam, you've probably been.
I've been. It's been a number of years, but it's.
Did you love it?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I haven't experienced it as an adult, so I think it's even better when you're an adult.
Okay, sorry, we can continue, but hot take from the people. Apparently, they love Iowa City. So,
well, we'll see if Avarie likes it next year when we do this episode again.
Come November 29th when I'm freezing, I'm gonna call you in and be like, "Get me out." Hero.
And I'll just tell you, hey, Omaha to know better. Okay, we'll start with Minnesota.
Okay, well, that was a tough one because volleyball day was the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get home till about after midnight. I didn't go to sleep till about 2. My flight was at 6. I left about 4. We got to the hotel, took a nap. We did go to Husker Bar to do like a little NBNR. Yeah, No Block, No Rock podcast. And that was really cool. The Nebraska Bar was great. It was in downtown. Getting to the stadium was a little bit of a distance away. And I was like so exhausted. So I feel like I wasn't like really immersed in the whole vibe that I usually am. The stadium itself was really cool. I will say the press box was really nice. But it didn't feel very college-y to me. And the tailgating, I understand it was on a Thursday. I understand it's on a Thursday. However, it was like for the first game of the year in beautiful weather, I was like super underwhelmed. So they're going to be closer to the bottom somewhere.
Okay, so you're going to call them maybe Michigan State?
Well, actually,
in points per game, I'm saying so the scale is when you say it's like a cheat code, like Michigan, they won the national title. Iowa had the lowest points per game. Where would you kind of lay them in the Big Ten standings for like
I'm trying to think
points per game?
Where else did we go? Illinois,
Indiana?
No, we didn't go to Indiana. We went to Michigan. Can I give them a number?
Yeah, give them a number. Rate them 1 to 5. Yeah, because you went to 5 spots.
Yeah, okay. They're gonna get my 2.
Whoa.
I didn't love the game day, but then again, once again, I was like borderline crying. I was so tired. That's never happened to me in my life. And I don't feel like I got to enjoy as much of it as I wanted to. I also wasn't really able to go on the field like later in the game, which I know is kind of not possible at Nebraska, but I do at least have some access. And so I was basically kind of trapped in like a press box, but the windows didn't go down kind of thing. So I don't know. It was cool. Like, don't get me wrong. Wasn't a bad experience. I wasn't like, oh, this feels so top-notch college football environment right now.
So is Minnesota, when you say 2, is that like, is 1 the lowest then, or is 1 like number 1?
I was just going to give them like 5 is good, 1's not good.
Okay. So 5 is, Ace is high. Ace is high. Okay. Colorado.
My favorite.
Oh, you're disgusting.
I know. Okay. But here's why, because take everything out about both the sides. The environments, because of what was going on there last year, was like, if I could encapsulate like college game day in a morning, in a day, that's what it felt like. Like the evening before, I obviously love the mountains. So having that campus and be in a cool area, one, it gives us something to do the night before and enjoy. But they did this thing on Pearl Street, which is their main little shopping area in Boulder. All of the teams come down and they do like a march. It's called the Buffalo Run or something like that. And I didn't realize the football team had already gone through. And so we were sitting there waiting. I'm like sick, like week 2, I'm going to have a video of Dion, like for our socials, like sick. All these people, like he's right here. There's no security. It's just crazy. And then they were already way gone, but same situation happened. Band comes through, all the teams come through, people line the streets, whatever. So there was some sort of tradition. There was a ton of excitement. And the next morning, the game was 11 o'clock, whatever it was, our central time. So it was 10 o'clock there. So we're up super early and people are everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Music's playing, tailgates are going, kids are everywhere. Like the sun is out, it's beautiful. You get inside, people are like Nebraska style for this game too. They were watching warmups. Like there was an animosity in the air, but like everyone was just like so excited to see this like game be intense. And then obviously there's all these celebrities on the sideline that I couldn't even like pick out until they put them on the screen later, because they were just all bunched in they're just so much energy. Like that was absolutely my favorite, despite the score, obviously. But the press box was super old, but the windows were down and everyone had a good spot and you could hear the sound. Like, I don't love when I'm trapped inside the press box and I don't feel like I'm a part of it. At Colorado, you felt like you were immersed in it. They had the towels. It was loud. I will say it was absolutely my favorite experience last year. Take away the score. It was one of those like, holy cow, like I can't believe I'm in this experience, you know?
Yeah, Cam's going to cut out that part of it was absolutely my favorite experience, and then we're just going to stop it there.
Absolutely my favorite experience.
Just stop it there, Cam. Like
and you already knew this.
That's our social clip.
Andrew and Robbie made fun of me last year when I was on the radio and I talked about it, but it just was like when you wake up and watch College Game Day and you get excited for a game, like that's what I felt going into this game, because it was week 2. It was when it come down to the game talk, like it was make or break for both these teams. It felt like super early. Like, is Colorado the real deal? Can Nebraska bounce back? Here's this rivalry. Like there was a lot of pent up stuff between two teams who haven't proved anything in a long time, but everyone was so invested. It was probably the most energetic game I was at on the road. And it rivaled probably the energy that you feel in a Nebraska game in the beginning of a game. Like when we go places and it's warm-ups, no one's there. Not at all. This one, people were there. Husker fans were already there. You could feel it before the game. Sometimes it takes a little while. This one was like, let's just go, you know? So that's sorry.
All right. Whatever. Okay.
Let me preface this. If we had to go back this year, I think I would not say the same. I already know that for a fact. I think the excitement of the unknown from last year and after week 1, that's why I think it was what it was.
See, I think your vision was blurred because you didn't have volleyball day before Colorado. So
that's true.
If volleyball day came before, I don't know.
But like when you think of like a perfect college town vibe, like out of a movie, that's what
Nebraska.
It felt like. Sure. But like in a movie, like on the road, I'm biased because I've grown up going to Nebraska games. I've always had a very hard time going to away places and feeling anything similar. And this was the first time where I'm like, wow, like you can feel the energy walking around the stadium. Usually I'm like, where are the people? You know, this time it was legit. This year,
Illinois.
I don't think so. Okay, weird. It was a Friday night game and I loved it. It was weird. Okay, let me also say this. The situation where we stayed in the like campus environment wasn't the best, but the tailgating they do there is really cool. It's just a huge grass open space. They're all on top of each other. There's not much walking. You're right on top of the stadium. You're all right there. And I think the stadium itself was glorified high school stadium, probably. That's disrespectful. I'm sorry. But
I'm going to have such a good time cutting up your just little digs and making it sound like you hate everything.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. We're just going to chop it up and post it on
I just
social.
gave so much love to Colorado. I don't hate anything there. But the press box at Illinois was top notch. They probably were the best of all of them. The food they served was fantastic. They had homemade ice cream. They had cold brew on tap. They had popcorn, like fresh popped popcorn the whole time, fresh cookies. The homemade ice cream apparently is like an Illinois football thing, I guess. It was great. Seating was great. Spacious, great. The vibe on the field that week, I think, was why I loved it, because they had just come off the Michigan game. And so they had a lot to prove, and it was a Friday night. It felt Friday Night Lights-ish. Honestly, it did, because it was a smaller town. It felt like a lot of people were showing up to come hang out on a Friday night. And sorry, hair in the mouth. Sorry.
she's so into it. Her hair is whipping back and forth.
But I loved the energy on the field from the team, and you could also just feel it. I mean, they won the game. It was really interesting game, but there was never a time when I think I doubted what the result was going to be because of how much energy the team had. And it felt, once again, it felt like maybe I was nostalgic, I couldn't tell you, but it was a nostalgic, like Friday night football game. Honestly, it was. It felt like that. And I really enjoyed the workspace, like press box. It felt comfortable. The actual like campus itself, and probably like a 3. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So are we going with 4 then for your experience, or 3?
I would say probably at the field, I really enjoyed it. Once we left the field, me and Sash were like, let's get out of here. Okay. But like at the field, I could have slept.
Factors in.
That's fine. So, I mean, if I had to do the whole entire thing, probably a 3.5. Okay.
Well, do you want to round that up or round down?
Got to be a whole number. We don't mess with
this isn't Vegas. You don't just get to set a line.
Fine. Well, actually, no. Let's do 4. Let's do 4.
A 4. So then I think if I remember correctly, you enjoyed Michigan State.
We did, because David came with us this one, and it was nice because we had more of us to like go walk around, and they have a really cool like district of food, and it's right on their campus. Campus is beautiful. And yeah, it's like just so many local places, which was cool. I like doing that when we travel, and they had a ton of options. It was just you felt like you were immersed in the college life a little bit. Like people the night before a game were all out and about, and it happened to be parents' weekend, so parents were there and all that kind of stuff. And so it was hard to get into places, which felt kind of reminiscent of kind of when you're at Lincoln or Nebraska game. There's kind of this excitement the night before, and at a place like Michigan State, there really shouldn't or didn't need to be. And there was, in terms of records, I guess. So I really enjoyed Michigan State. The stadium, didn't love stadium.
Is that why Michigan State's a 3 for you?
Probably. I really enjoyed the experience. The outcome of the game, not great at all. Wasn't really all that enjoyable to watch. But the experience of working it and being around the campus, I did enjoy going to.
All right, the last one, because we got to wrap this thing up. Got about a minute and a half, and then I want to get your quick hitter, way too early player to watch. Wisconsin's a 1. Tell me why.
Well, okay, so I love Wisconsin because I love their campus. Their campus is unbelievable. It's on the water. Tons of energy. Really, really cool. So many awesome places to stay. So many awesome places to eat and enjoy. You can walk around the lake. You can hang out in the lake. They have tailgates on the lake. Such a fun environment. Super cool. It was beautiful that day. The result of the game, obviously a negative. The apps, the working space, the press box and all that stuff, not ideal. They had weird systems. You were kind of allowed to go on the field and you weren't allowed to go on the field. And if you like had already gone up, they didn't let you go back, whatever. So just that part I think was a little bit, I'm giving you the full experience, not even just the game here, as you guys can all tell. And
well, it's the whole destination review.
Yeah. So love the Wisconsin stay though. Like it was comfortable. It was like, you felt like you were part of the campus. There were so many people around. Loved that. The stadium itself didn't love, but I will say the experience itself, being there, being on the water in the campus, the excitement before the game, both teams could have gone to a bowl game. So that was fun. So me and David got to walk around and kind of capture stuff and be around the college students and just about like all the tailgates and that's hard to do at other places. Like you either don't see it or it's disconnected. So Number one.
There you have it. Avarie Howard's Big Ten Destination Review. Avarie, before we let you go, who is your way too early player to watch this season for Nebraska?
Way too early. Oh, gosh, way too early. This is so tough.
Outside of Dylan Raiola.
I know. I feel like I got to go on it. Oh, I don't know. I'm so conflicted. Way too early because there's people that I want to say, but it's like they're dead giveaways already. But it's just we saw flashes of them that I'm hoping proves true. So
give me one of those guys. Come on, give me somebody juicy.
Well, that's my problem. Is I don't think this one is. Isaiah Nair is the one that I'm most excited about, but I don't think that's the one where it's like too early. Everyone I think is excited about that one. You know.
Maybe. I mean, he showed up well in the spring game, which is a little bit as to why you said that. But okay. I wouldn't really call Isaiah Nair somebody like, oh, my gosh, I'm so excited for him because it's not like he's played the last 2 seasons.
So I guess that's kind of why I feel like I'm excited because we were going to do some interview thing with him and we had a conflict. But because I was preparing for it, he's had these injuries. But last few weeks ago when we talked to him at a press conference, he went to Texas. And he was like, I've been healthy for the last year. And he was like, me going to Nebraska, his decision was influenced by the fact that he's like, I think I got too excited and too overwhelmed by the decision to go to Texas. And then not everything stood true. And so I think he has a lot to prove this year, but I think he's a great athlete. I think he has a lot of experience. And I think the flashes that we've seen in practice in a game really help elevate this offense a ton. And I think, like you said, it's a name that we're already hearing, but I think because when you know a little bit of the backstory, you want to care a little bit more maybe, and you're cheering for his success. To see the way he spoke about it, he's like, well, you know, I've been, people were like, how are you feeling? We know you've been injured. He's like, I've been healthy for a year. So I think there's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and he has something to prove. And so I'm excited to see the way that he and Dylan can work together and elevate as a pair, hopefully more than just a pair, but those are the two I'm excited to watch together.
She's Avarie Howard. That's Kahm Broham. I'm Andrew Rogers. Avarie, thanks for joining us on the inaugural episode. I cannot believe I just said that perfectly. That is like the biggest tongue twister. It's like having a mouthful of marbles when you have to say that word. But Avarie, it was so much fun. We'll do it again, especially as we lead up to the season with her. We may need to change Rogers Rulez this episode, Kahm, to Rogers Rulez with an H because it was all Nebraska based.
Oh, that's a good one.
The brain's working over here. You know, that tiny brain may be growing a little bit. I'm catching up to DR. Maybe not. Kyle Byers is joining us on Thursday. He works with Hurrdat Sports as well, more in a video capacity, but also you hear him on NBNR. A little bit of a shout out there from Avarie when she talked about the Minnesota trip to that group. They are an exciting bunch. So we'll talk to Kyle Byers on Thursday. That'll do it. We'll see you then.